to another Firearm Freedom YouTube live stream. I hope everybody is doing well. We got actually a good bit of questions this week, so that is pretty solid. I'm going to get everything situated here the best that I can. This probably has to be lowered a little bit. Let me know on audio, all that good stuff, if I'm coming through properly. I feel like I'm a little bit off-centered here. There we go. That looks a little better. This week's live stream, so if you guys don't know how these live streams have been going, I send out some questions ahead of time, or I shouldn't say that. I ask for some questions ahead of time. We'll see you. We'll see you later. See you later. I throw out the open-ended Q&A in the beginning. And the reason why I do that a few days ahead of time is so that way you guys can throw any questions you might have, whether it's about the topic in the live stream or about something else, ahead of time. So if you can't see this live, you can ask those questions and I will answer them here in the live stream. So that has been working out pretty well. Stay tuned for the community tab here on YouTube. That's where I post these questions for you to ask, and then also in the Instagram story. Before we start getting into those, as always, there are ways that you can support the channel down in the description. One of the first things that you can do after this live stream is over is click on that merchandise store link. I have an awesome new drop for shirts, and I should have a new design coming soon. Stay up to date on that here on YouTube and on Instagram. I'll try to keep it updated as much as possible, but I got a new design coming, and you can also pick up shirts like this, right? If you want people to just see, hey, this country is run by pedophiles, you know, I got a shirt for that, and you can rock it. It's a little in your face, don't worry. I have some more covert shirts as well. And no, this is not specifically pointed at Joe Biden or anything like that. It's more so at a grand scale. You would know if you watch, or I should say listen, to our podcast, Freedom Foil. Should have another episode of that coming out relatively soon. But this shirt is available to purchase. And of course, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, all that good stuff does help the YouTube algorithms. And what it should do is make YouTube actually pop these videos up in your subscription feed. So all that I really do appreciate. Let's get into some questions in today's live stream, and we'll go from there, because it's going to be an interesting one. We're going to be talking about the ATF frame. God damn it, I've been doing pretty good about the dehumidifier, but you know what? I failed in today's live stream. The dehumidifier just cranked on. Give me just a moment here. This is so unprofessional. I'm sorry about this, guys. Hopefully you'll be able to forgive me. Just a moment. We're doing it live. All right, we're back. We're back. I got it all roped up here again. Okay, we're mic'd up. We should be all right. Okay. There is no forgiveness for leaving the dehumidifier on. That's everyone just clicked out of the live stream, and that's okay. That's all right. All right, starting with the questions that I got on YouTube, I'm just going to go from the top and work our way down. J. Dot. Thank you for your question, first of all. He's got a couple of questions here. What recommendations and tips can you give about getting into using a suppressor? What caliber platform to use on, brand of suppressor, etc.? So essentially, you know, what are your recommendations to get into the suppressor world is how I'm reading that question. So you have to really look at what you mainly are going to be interested in shooting as far as gun-wise suppressed. For the most part, as far as ease of use and maintenance, a rifle suppressor is by far going to be supreme. You generally don't have to really do a lot of cleaning on rifle suppressors, so maintenance is pretty easy. You just have to make sure you keep the threads clean where you're inserting adapters and other things, so that way you don't have any issues with that. But ultimately, rifle suppressors are nice in that area. The downfall with rifle suppressors is they are pretty loud depending on what gun you put them on. Now, they're still going to quiet it down a lot more than shooting unsuppressed, obviously, but if you're looking for that really cool movie quiet, unless you're on a shorter 300 blackout with subsonics, you're just generally not going to get that out of a rifle can. If you're looking for movie quiet, a pistol suppressor generally can be a nice place to start because it allows you to still get movie quiet on certain pistol calibers, and then a lot of those can be broken apart and cleaned, user serviceable, so you can also shoot 22 from time to time as well. On the contrary to what a lot of people say, typically I would not recommend a 22 can as a first suppressor. It's one of those things that is not as modular as you might think it is, and although it is super fun and very movie quiet, it is a little bit of a pain in the butt to clean and maintain and all that good stuff. So for a first suppressor, it can get a little bit annoying. But as far as getting into it, that's the first question you got to ask yourself, and I would set aside at least $1,000 to just get into everything, and that's the cost of the suppressor and the cost of the tax stamp. On a budget, you might be able to get the suppressor and the tax stamp for around $700, and then you're looking at adapters and other things. But generally, we see a lot of people going with the rifle suppressor because that's the most practical. The pistol suppressor is cool in theory, but then trying to get a holster or use it in a practical sense can be a little bit difficult. So, J. Dot, I hope I answered your question. If not, let me know down in the description, or not description, comment section. Kind of the same thing. DAR asks, you going to be on Tim Pool? Probably not. I don't know that Tim Pool knows who I am. I don't watch him that frequently. I see his stuff pop up on Reddit because I think I follow the Tim Pool thread on Reddit. But no, I don't follow his stuff all that frequently. So, you know, probably not. Joe Young asks, the Sig Spear, a question looking for an answer. So the Sig Spear, I think, is interesting in theory, but in actual application, I just don't know how it's going to go. We'll see. It's all going to depend on where that caliber goes, where it takes off. I do think that it's probably a little bit bizarre that they would go with that on a grand scale. I do think that 5.56 is lacking in some departments, especially the shorter you go in barrel lengths, and it would be nice to have a slightly more powerful cartridge in, you know, at a grand scale. But I'm also, you know, not in the military. I've never been in the military, so it's a little bit tough for me to look into that as far as from those eyes looking in and being in that situation. Would that be a benefit or would it not? I don't know. I do think it's going to cost a lot of money and ultimately probably a lot of tax dollars to fulfill all of these things, so that kind of sucks. You know, it is what it is. So hopefully I answered your question there. Straps Actual, who might be watching this now, will we see you later? You will see me later. So I appreciate that question. Dave Winters asks, chili with or without beans? So I don't eat chili that frequently, but I kind of thought chili had to have beans. I don't know. I didn't know that there was like a type of chili without beans, but maybe there is. Who knows? Every time I've eaten chili, it's been with beans. So there's that. Maybe I prefer it with beans then. Let's see here. Now, I had two other questions. Let's see. S. Rios on Instagram. Okay. Fangirl Range Day. I appreciate the question. Okay. Is there ever going to be a Fangirl Range Day for Firearm Freedom? You know what? There might be. I had a lot of thoughts in my mind about potentially doing somewhat of a get-together with the channel at the range. I don't know how that would go. I don't know where it would go. There's a lot of liability there if you do a get-together at a range, do a range event. There's like, you just can't just like go somewhere and hope for the best, because if something bad happens, safety issues, I don't know how all that's going to go. So I don't know. We'll see about that in the future. I'd have to look a lot more into it and see how many people would be interested. So if you ever wanted a Firearm Freedom meetup or a range day or something, let me know down in the comment section, and maybe I can make it happen. Last question that I got this week was from PNV57, and that was, do you still like your Tantal? So quick answer to the question, I love my Polish Tantal, and that is a rifle that I am so happy that I bought. And the reason why I'm happy about it is because it was a really cool build by Atlantic Firearms. It was not a Century build kit or anything like that. and it's gorgeous. It's a great rifle, and it was incredibly reliable. And when I bought that rifle, everybody was kind of crapping all over that gun, and on top of it, not only was the entire industry like not about Polish Tantals at the time, it was like $800. And now you're seeing Polish Tantals, even the Century ones, go for $1,500 plus easy. And I don't even know what the Atlantic Firearms ones would go for right now, but I'm sure it would be a lot higher than $1,500. So I'm very happy that I got mine when I did. And yeah, I don't regret that purchase at all. I love that rifle. It's a great gun. Okay, so now we're going to move on to, let me just check in here, see where everyone's at. Where are you? I am in Pennsylvania. How's that for an answer? I need another 1911. Mike, yes you do. Okay, so we're going to get into the meat of this live stream. And that is going to be the frames and receivers rule change going into effect a few days ago. And then we're also going to talk about BDU stuff as well. Like any other live stream, if you hear me talking about something that's incorrect, or you want to chime in, or you want to ask me a question, even if it's not about the topic, please throw it in the live chat. I appreciate that because it shows me that you guys are actually watching and all that good stuff. So that's really cool, and I'll try to answer every question that pops up in there. So earlier this week, the ATF rule change with frames and receivers went through. I'm going to be looking down a bit because I do have my notes on my other phone here, and that is going to be helping me out a bit. So in my opinion, after looking through it, the frames and receiver rule change is not going to do much. There's really not much that it is immediately doing. They clarified receivers as we've known receivers as far as on the AR, as far as other things. There's a lot of unknowns that we'll talk about in a bit, but immediately, how does this change you going into a gun shop and purchasing a firearm? Not really too much. It's what it doesn't immediately change that is the issue that I see. So what this effectively did, to start off, you have the ATF being allowed to continuously make law and make new law completely void of the legislative process. As we've talked about a ton here on these live streams, this is why I have an issue with the current system. This is why I have issues with, gun tubers telling you to vote harder, because as I've said before, you are voting harder against a group of people that is not doing that system. They're voiding the legislative process and doing what they want with this hidden hand agency, regardless, because I got news for you, regardless of how many comments you put in and how many, copy and paste emails you sent. So that happened, and that's, again, furthering down the line the fact that this says, hey, you're good to go to re-evaluate what a frame and receiver is. Even if they clarify that it's the exact same thing that we thought, it doesn't matter. What matters is the fact that they're being allowed to continuously do these things in the way of legislation that's not really legislation. And that's something that I think a lot of people aren't aware of. Like, I get a lot of people coming into the gun shop, a lot of beginners, a lot of people who, have been around for a while and just aren't really that into it. But when it comes to asking questions, the question that I hear the most is, did this law that they're trying to get passed, did they get that through? Did this piece of legislation go through with the pistol braces yet? Did they get this stuff passed with the frames and receivers, law yet? People don't really seem to understand that there is no getting this passed, or like, who can we get in, the political party to like shoot this bill out of the House, or shoot this bill, out of another area that will save us all. It doesn't work like that with the ATF. A lot of people don't realize that. There is no legislative process. They're just either having the DOJ say, yes, you can do that, or no. And I believe it's like 120 days after it's in the Federal Register that it goes into law, whether or not it's good or bad or ugly, unless the DOJ stopped it, is my basic understanding of that process. And I don't have a lot of understanding about it, so, you know, it is what it is. Don't take what I'm saying as the utmost expert opinion. Go do your own research. So open-ended there, that's a huge issue. And then on top of that, the ambiguity of this entire thing. So I was able to, they sent out this training module that's like a live training thing for every gun shop that was out there. It was free to join and check it out or whatever. So I was able to like just peek my head in a few different times on what was going on with that. And it was the most vague, strange thing that I think the ATF even had no idea what it is they were trying to say. In some aspects, they were simply clarifying what has already been known forever and not changing anything. And then in other aspects that I can't even explain here because I don't even know what they were trying to say, it made it 10 times more vague and completely open-ended for them to do whatever they want to do. For instance, there was one slide that said, hey, we want to make sure moving forward that there's a serial number on one side of the lower receiver of an AR-15 and the other side of the lower receiver. Like both sides of the mag well or both sides of where the fire control group is. Because, wait for it, the lowers that can split in half, not upper to lower like this, I mean like this, that don't exist. So there's a problem, right? But the biggest thing that I saw here is it's completely open-ended for the ATF to dispute anything they want to because there's no, once again, clear and defined guidelines of these different things when it comes to frames or receivers. Now, when you're looking at manufacturing your own item, whatever that may be, it appears to still be maybe okay, maybe not. So that's the biggest problem here, is there was no answer. And quite frankly, at the very end of the live module, they opened it up for questions, and all of these gun shops were asking very important questions like, well, what is the deal with this? What can we do with this? You were not clear at all. All you did was just say, hey, the receivers are the same, and there's no other information at all, and they didn't answer anyone's questions. And then they cut the live stream like an hour short and just stopped the questions because they don't know the answers to them. They don't know what they're talking about. They have absolutely no idea. The people that are at the other end of that are being told by somebody else that doesn't know what they're talking about to regurgitate this information. And that's incredibly troubling. Why? Because it completely opens the door for other major issues in the future when it comes to frames and receivers and manufacturing your own firearm. So as far as what is that going to do to the manufacturing area in that department of a P80 or something else, I really don't know. I have absolutely no idea. I could not tell you one way or another, and I think anybody that's on YouTube that's claiming they could tell you one thing or another, I don't think they really know. It's completely ambiguous, it's completely gray, and there were no answers out of this. And I should also mention that regardless of a comment period or anything on the frames or receivers, this still went into effect a few days ago. So we'll try for some lawsuits in the future, I guess, but this is, in my opinion, the new reality of our situation in the way of gun law and in our freedoms here in the United States. And my guess is, since this is working so unbelievably effective in doing what they want to do, they're going to probably branch out into other areas of our lives that are not just guns like they already do to continue to control people void of the legislative process, by making that legislative process kind of deal with a lot less in the way of just kind of a big like parade and show over here, and then actually doing a lot of stuff that's going to mess your life up. They're expanding on that in a grand scale, i.e., massive new increases in IRS agents, for example. They're using these agencies that operate void of legislative process half the time to expand on authoritative measures. And this is not a current legislation, or sorry, a current political candidate thing. This has been going on for decades. They've been continuously expanding on the power of these other agencies, FBI, CIA, NSA, the ATF, all of these agencies, the IRS, are continuing to expand, and that is a huge, huge red flag. So that's currently what we are seeing. Now, when it comes to pistol braces moving forward and this process and what we are seeing, I would almost guarantee that in probably the next week or so, I think we're going to be seeing a similar result with the point sheet and pistol, large frame pistols, I'll say, as a whole. I don't know for sure. I have no idea. I've heard on social media that possibly it got stayed till December, but then I also heard from somebody else that it did not, and that it's still set to go through 120 days after whenever that was. I don't know if that even passed by now. I couldn't tell you one way or another, but I would almost guarantee that if it doesn't happen in August, it's probably going to happen in December or whenever else it gets to that point. I just don't see any signs of it stopping, of it, not going that way. The comment period thing to me is just outrageous, quite frankly, and I call it like I see it. I got a lot of flack, not a lot of flack, but I got some flack in my last live stream, and I have a tendency to be overly depressing about a topic, right? Very pessimistic, very doomer, and just negative vibes. But I also tend to call it like I see it, and it's very frustrating for me to see a regurgitated mess that I view, right, as digging us only deeper into our grave. So I don't feel like I'm doing my job properly to give somebody that's watching this my 2 cents into a topic. I don't feel like I'm doing the proper job unless I just call it like I see it. And if you think it's too negative, if you disagree, if you get all salty because you're butthurt that you copy and paste an email and I'm telling you it probably didn't do anything, you might not like these live streams. And let me know down in the comment section. If enough people really say, hey, we hate these, we don't want to see it, I won't do them anymore, and we'll call it, with that. But I do think there are some people out there that just simply want to hear a differing opinion than one that just tells everybody to go do the same thing. When you're looking at a comment period, you're commenting to an agency, okay, that consistently breaks the law. So they're void of a legislative process. They are a completely rogue agency. They have proven multiple times in our history that they will murder, that they will drug traffic, that they will do everything a criminal organization does, but they do it under the backing of the federal government. And I'm not just talking the ATF. I'm talking about the FBI, I'm talking about the CIA, and all of these other people who have abused our freedoms, who have taken away our privacy, who have taken away your rights, and most of the time have taken away a life, whether that's with breath in your lungs or with your body behind bars. A lot of the times, that's what these agencies do. They do not do so through a legislative process of all of these things going on and checks and balances. They don't operate under that. Even though they say they do, they've proven multiple times that they don't. So you are working in a process that's like this legislative thing of, hey, if we just send enough comments, they gotta read them. Well, I got news for you. I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say they probably, even though I know it's by law, they should read them. They probably aren't reading all of them, okay? And maybe they do. I know, again, a lot of people are going to get pissy at this, and that's just fine. But I personally, I don't believe that they read those. Now, will that possibly help in a lawsuit down the road? Sure. If you go out on a limb there and say, hey, if 3 million people commented 2 years down the road when we have the lawsuit, maybe we can say, hey, these people, right, that all commented, there's so many people that own these, and maybe that will help in the lawsuit. Sure. And is it going to do anything wrong or bad by making the comment? No, it's not. It's not going to do anything bad. Sure, go ahead and do it. My only thing is, in my opinion, once again, it creates a little bit of a false understanding of, one, what's going on, and two, false hope that doing that item is that, or doing that thing of sending the comment is this big, like, set of relief that you did everything you needed to do. And I don't believe that. So, I'm not going to spout it on here and tell you guys to do that and with a straight face say, I believe that, I think that's going to do anything. Because again, this is an agency that has literally murdered people multiple times before. And something tells me essentially criminal element that is operating under government protection probably doesn't give a shit about what is going on in a lawsuit or a comment period, because they're going to probably try to find a way around that, which they consistently try to do. Moving on to the Big Daddy Unlimited situation here. So, and by the way, I also think the ATF won the bump stock case as well. There's a lot developing with that, and I think it's now being brought up to the Supreme Court. But still, we're seeing a lot of these consistent screw yous happening on the side of the ATF, because once again, they're operating void of a lot of this stuff. So when we're looking at Big Daddy Unlimited, what's the situation with Big Daddy Unlimited? So Big Daddy Unlimited is not the best company. They are a company that has consistently used a style of marketing that's rather frustrating, because they kind of try to buy out the entire community of the gun community. And not only are they using that marketing in a frustrating way, but Rare Breed dropped the FRT trigger. They're consistently trying to fight the ATF on the FRT trigger because the ATF says it's a machine gun. We know that by now. Big Daddy Unlimited decided, hey, this is a great time that we're going to steal a design and make some money off of it because we're a shitty company. So they went ahead and copied the design almost identically, and they went and got it imported in, and of course they got roped into this as well. Now, I've seen a lot of differing things here when it comes to Big Daddy Unlimited and customer receipts and all of these other things. From our understanding, Rare Breed has not given out any customer receipts. Now, I got news for you guys. Once again, we are dealing with these agencies, and these agencies have a way of obtaining those records without even worrying about the company that originally sold you the item. And quite frankly, unless you paid in cash privately, they have a way to track that. And how they typically track that is via FedEx, USPS, any UPS, any type of postal service that ships that package to your house. That's how they track it. Or they track it via the form of payment, whether that is a credit card company or a bank card or whatever else. If they really want to see if you purchased that item or if you did not, they will absolutely figure out a way to do it. And the only thing that changes is the easiest way of doing it, of going to the manufacturer and saying, hey, we need all your purchase receipts, becomes unavailable. So everybody, seems to forget that, but that's typically what is going on. Now, when you look at Big Daddy Unlimited, there was a lot of stuff, I want to say about a month ago, that was kind of insinuating that Big Daddy Unlimited already gave up customer receipts when they were essentially raided by the ATF for a cease and desist to stop manufacturing and selling the wide open trigger and all of that stuff. They denied it and said, hey, we didn't give any of our customer information out. I call total BS on that, because this company, so when you look at like the company story, and when you look at the people that started the company, and when you look at the gun buyback program stuff that they may or may not have done, and when you look at them in interviews about the gun buyback stuff, you can very quickly, in my opinionated view of the situation, pick out the fact that these people did not really start their lives very young in the gun world. right? They had maybe not the same sort of situation that we had in the gun world in understanding how things work, and that happens a lot of the time when you get into guns at a much older age, right? When I'm saying you're not like 10 or below or like 18 and below getting into the gun world, you learn a lot really quickly, and you learn a lot of frustration really quickly. But as an adult, you might not really know any of that stuff, and you might not really get as passionate or care. So in my opinion, this is what you see when people that are not gun people, true gun people, start a business like this. If they are pushed against a wall, they will take stances like this. Now, in the case that is going on of the patent violation stuff, where Big Daddy Unlimited is now being sued because Rare Breed had no other choice, because Big Daddy Unlimited decided to do all this while while Rare Breed was dealing with the ATF. In that, Big Daddy Unlimited essentially, not by saying 100% these words, I'm paraphrasing, but essentially called the FRT a machine gun, right? So they called the FRT the machine gun, and they said, hey, paraphrasing again, go look it up on your own, but, this trigger is a machine gun, unlike another trigger over here, a binary trigger, even though their trigger is the exact same. Now, the judge in that situation, I believe, then called upon the ATF and the FBI to figure out if there could be a patent violation on an illegal item. Not necessarily to say, is the FRT illegal or not as a machine gun, but essentially saying, is this even a case if it is about an illegal item? Here's my overall, opinion of what is probably going on. Because a lot of people were like, oh my God, why would they do this? It's shooting themselves in the foot. They have the same trigger. Oh, they're such idiots. My guess is they wouldn't say this on the books in court unless, this is completely opinionated, and this is just completely my thoughts on the situation, unless the ATF made a deal with them, as they've consistently done all throughout history in their shady ways, to say, hey, if you, on the books, call that trigger a machine gun, which helps our case, if you give us all of your purchase receipts and all of your other information on your customers, if you work with us in any way that we ask you to do, we'll make sure that you guys, are able to kind of get out of this one a little bit easier than going to jail for a really long time. And I would imagine with the track record of BDU, that would be like a no hesitation response. That's just me. That's my thoughts on the situation. My guess is that's going to drop at some point in the future, that BDU is working with the feds in this case to try to figure out a solution that screws the entire community, including their customer base, and also saves their asses. That's probably what we're going to end up seeing. And this furthers the ATF down their rampage warpath on screwing the entire country along with the FBI and the IRS. This is not going to stop. It's not. And this started with bump stocks back in the day, more recently. And it also started back in the 30s, okay? And it started before that. It started a very long time ago. And it's consistently trying to figure out a way, at least how I view it, of still creating the smoke screen of a choice while also creating massive government wasteful agencies to screw everyone in the country that is completely void of the smoke screen. Now, there's a lot of thoughts and conspiracies and tinfoil hat opinions that I myself have, and many others have, on exactly who is controlling the strings in the situation, exactly what those agencies are being directed to do and why. But quite frankly, none of that really matters at this point, because these agencies are doing that, and they're doing it much more rapidly as we continuously progress down this new decade. And I don't think it's going to stop. So, that's the situation that we're seeing. And I don't know, you tell me, if you've had an agency that has been breaking the law, has been murdering people and not being charged and not being reprimanded. In fact, a lot of those people being promoted to high positions of power inside the government. If you have an agency like the CIA torturing people all throughout our history and killing people and utilizing tactics that we would shame another horrible authoritarian country for, and that we have shamed other horrible authoritarian countries for, but they've been doing those same things right inside this country, under our very noses for decades, and still are. So if we have those agencies acting in those ways, I don't think it's wise to view one of the primary answers to that big major problem as copy and pasting a comment or trying to write a few paragraphs to that agency on why what they are doing is frustrating you and is breaking the law. They know it's breaking the law. They understand that. They continuously do that. Will it help a lawsuit? Once again, probably. But when is the lawsuit? How many people get killed ahead of time? How many people go to jail ahead of time? Do those people get saved? Do they not? I don't know. But that's a big problem here. That's a big problem. So we'll see. If I were you, if you did purchase an FRT or a wide open trigger, I would seriously start considering what you are going to do. What you're going to do in that situation, because it more than likely will get to the point that you get a letter in the mail asking for the property. And there's a lot of places on YouTube saying, hey, slam the door, whatever. What I would recommend to you to do is contact a firearms attorney now to figure out what the best course of action is. That would be my example, of what to do. Now, that is considering we are operating under the guise that, hey, if I get an attorney, that's going to help me in this situation. What I can tell you is that with the stories that are breaking of people getting their house visited by the ATF over the FRT, very minimal stories right now, it is put in the way that typically the ATF puts it, which is either you play ball and you give us the item, or we come back with a warrant, and a lot of the times they do get a warrant because we are in a completely corrupt judicial system as a whole, even at the very small level, so they do get a warrant. And then they come back, and now all of a sudden we find all these other things and items because we're the shitty ATF, and we leave all of these ambiguous laws out there so that if you don't play ball, we're like the mob and the big brother of the government. And we say, well, you didn't play ball, so now we're going to say all these ambiguous laws, you now broke like 80 of them, and you're going away for a very long time. So that's what you're faced with. Now, I'm not trying to say that you should also just say, here's all my things. That's not what I'm saying at all. All I'm saying is you need to be fully aware of how this situation operates to figure out what your recourse is going to be, what you're going to do. You probably need to contact a firearms attorney to figure out what to do. And also, there might be a solution of just not answering the door at all. Because if you don't answer the door, I don't know if they can keep coming back or not or whatever. If they don't have a warrant ahead of time, I'm not a legal advisor, and I'm also not in law enforcement, and I never will be. And that's a situation that I don't know if that's the right answer either. But what I can tell you is a lot of the time, if the answer is this kind of like half in, half out, slam the door, like go get a warrant, I'm not giving up shit, a lot of the time those people end up not, it's about before in live streams that I said is very, very bad when it comes to an individualized level of the only thing left being you as the individual having to deal with a team of armed tyrannical thugs at your home, at your property, trying to take it, and you need to figure out, like, okay, where do we go from here? Once you get into a situation where each and every one of the people in the community is individualized and is down to just themselves, and it's you trying to protect your family and your livelihood and what you do, it is not good. It is not good, because it is very, very far gone at that point. It is very far gone at that point. I've said it before, and I will continue to say it. Here. Sorry, guys, I'm reading back through the questions because that's slowly wrapping up my points on the matter, at least. Christopher asks, have you shot the Palmetto State Armory 5.56 AK yet? I have not. I actually have not seen one in person, so I don't really have any thoughts on it. 45 versus 9mm, both suck. Grab a rifle or a shotgun if you can. At the end of the day, handgun cartridges really are kind of not great as a grand scale of stopping attackers doing what they're doing, regardless of the caliber. And with modern day ammunition, they're very matched. That's just how it is. So I choose whatever I can fit the most of in a magazine in that platform that I'm carrying. I really don't care what caliber it is, provided it's not something so anemic like 25 ACP or something like that that just really is well proven to have an issue with doing much in the way of a defensive situation. But that is typically why you don't see, everybody in positions of a high probability of conflict only holding pistols and not rifles or shotguns. And shotguns only within certain distances, of course. What are your feelings on 10mm, aka the best millimeter? I mean, once again, if you're comparing it to handguns, I do think that all handgun calibers as a whole kind of suck. 10mm is a cool caliber for sure. I do like the fact that it does have a little bit of extra oomph for predator protection, and also not only do I have a little bit of that extra oomph for predator protection, but I also have 15 rounds generally in the magazine of a full-size gun, so that's pretty cool. Scott, glad to see you in the live stream. Good thing Big Daddy Unlimited paid off all the gun tubers first. Right, yeah, that was awesome. That's great. That really helps the community. Let's see here. Let's see. Marbury versus Madison. Anything that is repugnant to the U.S. Constitution is null and void. Yep. Absolutely. And that's how it should be. The problem is there's a lot of shit right now that is absolutely going against that. Yet, here we are. that's just it. We are supposed to have the ability to protect ourselves against a tyrannical government. Well, we have a pretty tyrannical government, and we have had one for a very long time. Yet, here we are. Here we are. Frustration. Yeah, you better give up those triggers faster than Big Daddy gave up your name and address. Yeah, I'm not saying to do that. I'm just saying, again, you should cover your bases. That's all I'm saying. Ohio rep keeps saying shall not be infringed. Honestly, a lot of the time I don't give a shit what a rep says on camera, because I see a lot of them say something and then do something that's completely different. And my other worry is that it is more for politics and not necessarily their own personal beliefs. Maybe there are some good ones out there, and maybe that is too depressing, but that might be why you come to a Firearm Freedom live stream, for the doomer thoughts. You know what I'm saying? But Mark, I don't know. Maybe I'm sure that is cool to see. And if it is real that they do feel that way, that's great. That's great. Maybe they're going to try to do good things. I knew BDU was a scam when I heard that owners used to do mortgages in Florida, bottom of the barrel people. I don't know much about that at all, but I do know that I paid for a membership one time because everyone was telling me on YouTube that it was great. So I'm like, okay, let me go pay for a membership and see. And the prices were not that great. And honestly, there was a lot that was out of stock. So I was kind of like, okay. And I canceled it the following day. you know, it is what it is. I feel that people are paying too much to politicians and the alphabet agencies. I'm going to go back to watching agricultural videos on Cornhub. Hey, you know what? That sounds like a sick plan. Little woo-saw with the agricultural videos. So, guys, is this what you come here for? Okay, I don't know. You tell me down in the comment section. There's a lot going on these days, and this is just one gun tuber's opinion. I thought a lot to myself after the last live stream of where I want to go with these live streams and what I want to say and how it may affect people and how it might anger people if I say certain things. And it's kind of a trade-off because I do this as a, you could say, part-time job because I have a full-time job. And I do care that you guys watch my content and like the videos that I'm putting out because I put out these videos for you guys. Not necessarily to get a crap load of more followers, but to just simply, you know, make sure you guys are getting content that you enjoy. And if there's a lot of people that don't enjoy a political talk in a live stream, you know, I get that. And if I'm just screaming to a bunch of people that don't care at all and don't want to hear it, it's kind of pointless, so I don't really want to do it. But I also thought that, once again, I have to be true to myself, and that is always what this channel has been. It has been honest reviews. It has been me telling you guys how I feel about an item. Now, over the years, I have changed dramatically in my political views about everything that's going on. And I started as a very, very traditional Republican conservative voting member of society that just really believed in the system as a young 18-year-old kid. A lot of that has changed. And I've developed these opinions after diving into the conspiracy realm and the realm of our podcast, Freedom Foil, that's available on any podcast place that you go to with me and my wife. And the further I go down that hole, the further I begin to start viewing things in a different way, in a different light. And I do think that that is different than a lot of other people on YouTube in this community. And I view that as being somewhat informative for people. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep going. And if enough people want to comment down there and say, hey, don't do these anymore, I get it. You know, no problem, no harm, no foul. We'll go a different direction. But I'm going to keep going in this direction, and I'm going to keep trying to balance the doomer vibes with the realistic vibes and see what we get. Yeah, the podcast name is called Freedom Foil, no spaces. Gotta love it. Kind of firearm freedom, tinfoil hat, all in one. I think a lot of you guys will like the podcast. We also have a coexisting Freedom Foil Instagram page. If you go to Freedom Foil, once we get to 200, me and my wife are doing another live stream. Just remember that that is not our main gig. We do that just for fun. At this point, it is a blast for us to do, and we're trying not to ruin it, so it might be a little bit before uploads, but we do get them out, and there's about 20 or 21 right now, so you'll get a little bit of listening going before we get out another one anyways. We do have new audio on the new ones, but I think a lot of you guys might enjoy that. And actually, speaking of the podcast, very briefly, if you listen to our podcast, you may get a little bit more where I'm coming from on my opinions. Let it fly, Joe. I always enjoy your takes. At the end of the day, it's your channel, and I agree with most of what you say. You're probably informing a lot of people that don't have their ear to the street. Hey, I appreciate that, man. Seriously. Oh, good to see you, dude. I just put 2 and 2 together. Thank you for all the information and the support. All right, guys, that is going to wrap up tonight's live stream. You guys know the deal. After I finish this, I'm going to drop all the links down below. The podcast link is actually also going to be down there. So thank you so much for taking your time on a Friday evening to listen to this podcast or live stream. If you guys have any other questions, comments about everything that's going on, or you disagree with what I'm saying in the video, or you agree with what I'm saying in the video, throw them down below in the comment section. You guys know I will get back to every single one of you. While you're down there, head up to that description, check out all of those links, and stay tuned for more great videos coming soon.